So page 47 in the Kuntris, Yomesh Teres Chasidus, on the essence of Chasidus. This, I believe, is the 15th or 16th shiur. So everything is online to review if you're able to. Okay, so we're learning now that Chasidus is called the shemen, oil, rosin de rosin. The secrets of the secrets. There is the secret of Torah, which is the idea of, right? The idea of Kabbalah, of yayin, wine. And then there's the secret of secrets. And in the second paragraph on page 47, chapter 7, Zayin, that's what we're holding. Shemen hu nekudis hatamtzis. Let's read this together. Shemen hu nekudis hatamtzis. Shemen is the essence. Nekudas hatamtzis. How did they translate it here? The essence of everything. Yeah, but nekuda means the point. Hatamtzis. You know what a tamtzis literally means? Tamtzis means a summary. That's what the word tamtzis means. You have an elaborate idea, and then you have the tamtzis of the idea, the summary of the idea. So in the Yiddish, in the parentheses, in the text, it says essence, which is the essence. Shall kol dover. So shemen, oil, is the essence.
So essence is a Yiddish word?
I guess so.
Or
yes.
an English word?
Yeah. Well, there's an English word and there's a Yiddish word, essence. If it comes from the German language and all that we had, we need to ask a linguistic. But yes, there is a word in Yiddish, essence, and you see it here in the parentheses.
Well, Rabbi Dalton, you see that some people who don't use tea bags on Shabbos, they prepare in advance of Shabbos what's called tea essence, and it's a concentrated. It's a small amount of liquid that's very, very concentrated.
Right. So that's why it's called essence. I'm not sure that is the actual name of such a product called essence, or that's a name that's been a figure of speech.
It's not a product. It's something that
right.
Somehow, I don't know how it got the name of essence, but the point is that it's this very, very highly concentrated liquid that you take a little bit and you pour it into your
Klishi. Klishi, right.
Well, Klishi, but the point is that it's a very concentrated, small amount, but very, very concentrated.
Okay.
So I'm bringing it because I'm wondering, is there any correlation between that idea?
Well, and this? There is, because the essence of tea is communicated in that little amount.
That was the way I always understood the word tamtzis, was it's like when you the essence that's distilled down of something.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. No contradiction to what I said earlier, I don't think. Isser, what was that you were flashing on the screen?
Okay. So according to my Hebrew English dictionary, tamtzis is essence, and the Harduf Yiddish English dictionary does not have an entry for essence in Yiddish.
Okay. Thank you for that. We go.
But tamtzis, the Hebrew dictionary does translate it as essence.
Good. Shkoyach. Let's go further. From this, we understand. We are forced to say, on one hand, this essence is separate, is muvdal from everything and anything. Why? In the parentheses, for if you were to argue and say that it has some association to some specific thing, then this essence couldn't be the essence of kol davar. If you are already tainted some way or moved, predetermined, then you have already a liking for a specific particular issue and item. So how could you be the essence of everything? You're not the essence of everything. You're the essence of this particular thing. And it happens to be that outwardly you gravitate towards other things. But there's only a certain thing that really touches you, talks to you. And this is a very important nakuda. We flippantly throw around, oh, this is my essence and this is the essence. The Eben HaBoichen, the barometer to test, to know whether indeed this is your essence, is if it tickles your fancy, if it touches you, if you know, when you confront whatever that particular issue is, if that kind of gets you moving and then thinking and then feeling more than anything else. So the Rebbe says here, if we talk about a pure essence, we're talking about something that's removed from kol dover proti. You cannot tell me that I have a particular issue that touches me and I'm still able to experience essence and other things. No. Essence is beyond the detail. And so it's not that the detail is bad. It's not that it's bad, but you need to know where it's coming from. And this is why it's such a difficult avodah, and it takes years of discipline to discern whether this particular thing is really your essence. And this was the lifelong avodah of Ovdei Hashem, of Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, regardless of Chabad, Chagas, it makes no difference. Everyone in their own way sought to find within themselves in Avodas Hashem what is their essence, because it's easy to be caught by chitzonius, by superficiality, even good superficiality, and convince yourself this is your essence, and it's not so. There's another term for this Chasidus, rotzon, willpower. Where is one's essence determined not by their mind and not by their heart? Seichel and midos, intellect and emotions, as powerful and as important as they are, being part of the faculties of the neshama, are only what we call koiches protium. They're specific, individualized, formed faculties. And one does not know necessarily from them that that's who they are. However, when it comes to rotzon and tainug, will and pleasure, that's where you could tell where the person's at. And this is why, one second, please, concentrate for a moment. This is why a person has a real deep will and willpower. And a person can for years be engaged in a certain activity, in a certain mindset, in a certain heartfelt approach, and he still is not keying in on who he is. Only when the rotzon and the tainug is experienced, that's when one is experiencing essence. And to experience will and pleasure, it's not from eating a steak or swimming in the beach when it's 90 degrees outside. That's very nice. But unless it becomes, we're going to use a word now, your lifestyle. And I don't mean lifestyle outwardly, superficially, but it becomes like an addiction. Okay, we talk about an addiction. The addictive personality, in a way, is demonstrative of the rotzon personality. The problem is when the addiction takes you to unhealthy things, you're majorly messed up, and we have a major issue. Comes along Chasidus, comes along the Baal Shem Tov and says, what's the rotzon of a yid? The ratzon of every Yid is to be with Hashem. That's in the DNA of a Jew. Now, reveal that will. Explore it. Expand it. And when you get to that, everything else falls aside. It's like Reb Yoel Kahn, a mashpia, right? He smoked most of his life. A few years after the Rebbe's Yortz at Gimel Tammuz, he wasn't feeling well, and he didn't want to smoke, and then he had a heart attack that night. The next day, he stopped smoking cold, overnight, and he was like I don't know, it was a chain smoker, but he was smoking from when he was a teenager, the 1940s. You think about it, or the story, and the Rebbe too, they have the story when the Rebbe used to smoke in his youth in Russia, and in the 1940s when the Surgeon General came out that it's dangerous, and it's unhealthy, and it causes illness, etc., death, and all that. So the Frierdiker Rebbe mentioned it to the Rebbe, and he stopped smoking overnight. That's what I heard. I didn't see it. I wasn't there. But I saw, by Rabbi Yoel Kahn, we saw it. It wasn't not, and I'm sure you've seen people. In other words, here is a person who's a smoker. And I know Hillel does a lot of work with smoking patients and all that. Here's a person who's smoking all his life. And how does he go cold turkey? Now, again, I'm not the professional to give you those arguments or those positions, but from what I see, one second, Hill. It has to do with the Ratzon Ha'adam. And when you come in touch with the Ratzon Ha'adam, the Ratzon Ha'adam is stronger than anything else. And overnight, you can be a changed person, being in smoking, being in this, being in that. And it's like, you know what it's like? You're a fresh new baby. You're not someone who's 60 and 70 who dropped smoking after 40, 50 years. At this moment, when you go through the Ratzon experience, you are a new person. And the same is true with Tshuva. What do Chazal say about Tshuva? Tshuva means that's the paradigm shift. You're no longer Chaim, Yankel, Moshe, Hillel, Isser, etc. You're not that person anymore, but you were that way yesterday. That was yesterday. Yesterday I was living without Ratzon. Now I'm living with willpower. If I live with willpower, I'm a new person. Okay, Moshe and then Hillel. Moshe, you want to say something? No? Moshe? You forgot?
Yeah, I was gonna. No, I'm not. I didn't forget. I'm not sure how relevant it is now, but I'll ask it anyway. When you were giving an example about the Tainug, about sort of like where's a person at?
Yeah.
I was curious for an example. Some examples. I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe. It's trying to just issue of a lifestyle.
Okay. I know the Babitcher, who he was our shlichus. He was before that. He was in yeshiva. He grew up in Crown Heights in the 1950s, and he's learned. Came from a Hasidic home. He went on a shlichus. He had to raise funds for his institution, and then his spouse passed away. He was left with many children. It was very difficult. And he taught some people in the community Chasidus, who I knew. So one of them told me that when he taught the Chasidus to them, it wasn't the same person. It wasn't the same person who raised money. It wasn't the same person who lost his wife. It wasn't the same person who, was a good speaker. But when he taught them Chasidus, and they saw that he was different, so they asked him. So he asked them he said, what's this about? So he said, listen, my love, my Ratzon, where I'm at is Chasidus and teaching Chasidus. That's who I am. Everything else is not who I am. So when I'm given that half hour or that hour to teach Chasidus to someone else and to share it to, he says, that's me. That's an example, Moshe. That's an example. The example, that's a concrete example of someone although the rest of the day you see the person in different forms and different involvement, that's not the person. That's not the geschmack of the person. You don't find that the person is not experiencing delight, geschmack, tainuk, ratzon and tainuk, in everything else. It's in that little half an hour that you know, that he, or whatever, that when he learns with a few chevra, that's who he is. And it is this way. It is this way. I know so many chevra that you know that are shlichus and or here, there, business, whatever. When they get to Fabrang with a few of their own friends, and they say l'chaim, and you could see that that's where they're at. Everything else, they're good rabbis and good scholars and good fundraisers and good businessmen, but that's all because that's what they need to do, both financially, materially, and spiritually. But who is the person? The essence, we're talking about the essence. Who is the person? Not that. That's not the essence. And if you pay attention to this, you will see it. You'll see it around you, and you'll see it in yourself. Yes, Hillel.
So you were talking about addiction and ratzon.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just share a little anecdote, because once I gave a smoking cessation group to a group of nuns, former nuns, meaning they were still nuns, but they had been in a convent and they were now living independently. And it was in Baltimore, and a big snowstorm was approaching.
Right.
So, you know, for a day or so, there was sort of panic buying. Everybody was stocking up, and I said, I come into the group, and I say, so how many of you think you'll go out in the snowstorm? And everybody said, no way. I'm hunkering down, I'm going home. I said, and what would happen if you discovered that you were out of cigarettes? How many of you would go out? And every hand went up. That's right, son.
That's exactly right. Very good. So there, Moshe.
What's that? What's the phrase in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos? Hakol omed. What? Nothing stands before ratzon.
Ein davar omed lifnei harotzon.
Yeah, ratzon. Yeah. Okay.
Just for Moshe. There are things that make you happy. I would think, Moshe, when you are drawing and you're by yourself, and there's no phones, and there's no kids, and those wives and people, and you're and you have a geschmack. You feel something different. It's not, and I know it's from writing. I know from writing. It could be days and weeks. I write and research and write, and I still, it doesn't. And then there could be a day or an hour that I write something, and it really, it's that moment. It's that moment. And our hope is that when we learn Torah, do mitzvahs, help another Yid. Today's Hayyom Yom. What does it say today's Hayyom Yom sin? We should have a Geschmack and Ton HaToiva Yidin. They put it on the tombstone of my Shver, because he was a Yid who had pleasure in doing a favor for another Jew, and we saw it. And this wasn't in. I'll give you an example. Who goes out to every single Shalom Zocher? Rain, snow, shine. Very few people. He would. When he was well, there wasn't a Shalom Zocher that he didn't go to. There didn't even exist in his lexicon. Why? He didn't know the person. Why? Because a Yid's having a simcha. No. That's what it says in today's Hayyom Yom. To have a geschmack in participating in another Yid Simcha without any strings attached. Most of us, Most of us When do we participate? When we know the person, when we need something from the person, right? When we're going to be honored, right? How many rabbonim, how many rebbes? I don't want to go be descriptive because I think it will come to your simcha if they don't, if they're in the community, they don't know. Few, very few. I'm just saying that there is doing favors for people, and people do favors, and we all do. That doesn't mean yet we have a geschmack in it. A geschmack is a whole different level. It's like, spiritual heathenism. I mean, it sounds terrible, but the pleasuring of God in a mitzvah. You know what I'm saying? It's not just because I need to do this, it's important to do this. No, I do it because this is who I am. And that explains, as Chasidus says, you will remember, we learned many times about Avram Avinu. Why did Avram Avinu stand outside on the third day after his Milah, the hardest time, the most pain, looking for Oivim V'Shavim, looking for guests to bring him in? And what's the answer? Because Avram was the embodiment of Chesed. This is what it says in the Medrash, right? The Eibishter created the world on the Yom Rishon Chesed, Yom Sheni with Gvura. And then Hashem says, and now I have a replacement. It's Avram. Rabbi Avram Bell, you're the replacement for Avram with Chesed. What does that mean? That means that you can't rest. You cannot rest if you're not doing Chesed. Avram couldn't rest. Guess what? Avram had more pain from not having a guest than from the cut that was made on his Milah, and it was hurting him. And there were no painkillers in those days, okay? Let's go further in it. The Mazitzer Rebbe, Rabbi Taub, the Rebbe, what I'm telling you now, the Rebbe said once in the Sikha, it's printed already. I forget the first name, one of the great tzaddik, the Mazitzer Rebbe, in Europe, needed an operation. I think a brain surgery, a very serious operation. He told the doctor, don't ask me to explain because I can't, I could just repeat. He told the doctor, do not give me anesthesia. He says, I'm going to compose a niggin or sing a niggin. He was a great composer. And that will get me through not to feel the pain. And that's what he did. He had the operation. It was successful without anesthesia. And he went into a dveikus of Nagina. I don't understand this. I don't relate to it. I have an appreciation for Nagina and all that. But this level? I go to the dentist. I'm jumping out of my seat if I need to have shots to the right and the left. My wife's not that way, but I am that way. Can you imagine a person? But that's, Moshe, that's what we're talking about, the Ratzon. Nagina by the Mazitzer Rebbe was all of the Mazitzer Rebbe that, and I'm sure Hillel can explain it, it triggered in the brain that the brain, it didn't feel the pain. That's Ratzon. And the same is with Abbas Yisrael. There are two people, right? You come into a shul. There's one person that sees someone doing something not right in the shul. Then there's another person who doesn't see it because he only sees the good. It's a different level. There is someone who sees it and keeps his mouth shut or says, he'll do tshuva, I'll learn with him, I'll talk to him, the rabbi will, and then, and we'll placate the situation. There's someone else who doesn't see the bad in another yid. That's a different level. What do I mean? And I don't mean a different level like he's from Mars or he's a tzaddik. No. They're talking about the person that's sensitized himself and refined himself or is born that way. But to not see the bad in another person. I don't know, for me this is the hardest avodah. It's such a hard avodah. Not to see something wrong in ourselves, in others, and in ourselves too. Now, in ourselves, if we don't see the problems, that's the biggest problem. You understand? But what we need to say is when something doesn't go your way, and you're very disappointed, and you're very upset, and I woke up with this thought this morning. I woke up with this thought. I forget now. I must have dreamt about it, but it was something about like mat zu Torah v'zu schara. Those are the words that I woke up with this morning. This is Torah, and this is its reward. What the Asari Harugim Malchus, what we say in the Kinnis and Yom Kippur at Neila. And so there is the question. This is Torah, this is its reward. I do good, I do with God what you want, and I get kicked around, right? Then there's someone who doesn't have that question. Even though he is the recipient of such a Zutayra v'zuschara, but he's beyond it. He's above it, and that's the essence of Torah. Definitely the essence of Musar and Chasidus is that this whole idea, lav hein v'lav shovin, yes and no is the same, no difference. And when we say Rahman al-Islam, Baruch Daino Emes, that's what we're really saying. But do we believe it? Do we feel it? Baruch Daino Emes, the Gemara says in Baruchas, Kishem shemevorech al ha'toiv, kach mevorech al ha'ra. So when Mendel Futafas, Nebuch lost his daughter in 1963 in a car accident, and here is a man who sat 9 years in jail in hard labor for helping other Jews get out of Russia, right? And he paid his dues, big time. And then his daughter gets killed in a car accident, leaving 8, 9 Yesayim, right? I mean, so they say on the way to the Kfura, to the burial, he said to someone, the Geshem is a shverer. He was citing the Gemara in Brochas, Kishem shemevorech al hatov, kach mevorech al hara. So the word Kishem, just as, he said, the Kishem is a difficult one. That's a real man. That's a real man who realizes he's not there yet. He's not ashamed to feel and experience. He's not there yet. Is he angry at God? No, he's not angry at God. Is he giving up? No, he's not giving up. But the Kishem is a shver. Then there's a level which is really the level of tzaddik. But again, a person can come to it where, God forbid, a tragedy, Halacha says, there's mourning, there's shiva, there's a period, but the Nakuda is what's going on with the Ratzon Ha'adam, was the Ratzon Ha'adam. And it's coming up to Gimel Tammuz, just the same idea. Rebbe's Yartzeit. For the Chassid, for the real Chassid, I don't care Lubavitch, not Lubavitch, or the real Yid, the Yid who really wants to have a relationship with this particular tzaddik, Lubavitch Rebbe. And the same is true for every Yartzeit. When a Yartzeit comes, you have to look at your Ratzon to God vis-a-vis the tzaddik. And that's where you filter down what you do. So it's not about, it's not just about making another achlata resolution, which is important, and giving more tzedakah, and learning mishnayos for the neshama, and lighting a candle, and getting an aliyah this coming Shabbos, which are all minhagim, and I hope all of you will do this Shabbos to learn mishnayos, the Rebbe's name, in Hebrew, English, take a mishnah for each letter, if you can't learn the whole thing, to light a candle before Shabbos, to be getting aliyah, ask the gabbai. If the Lubavitch Yeshuas usually have multiple minyanim, By mincha, try to get an aliyah. And so those are all important things. But then there's and make a fabrengen and talk about the Rebbe's Avas Yisrael. These are things that are important, not just with yourself, with your family and friends, but it's the Ratzon. You know, and that's a very personal type of idea. Yes, Hillel.
You're reminded me on Shabbos I was learning in the Kamarnas Perish on Pirkei Avos, and he brought the famous story of the Baal Shem Tov who saw somebody being Mechalel Shabbos. And the Baal Shem Tov, he brings the teaching, he emphasizes the teaching that if you see something, like if you see something in someone else, it's a message from Shemayim that you have a flaw, a pagam in this area.
Yes.
So he searched and searched, what was it that he might have done, and he came to the conclusion that the Zohar makes a connection between a Talmud Chacham and Shabbos, and that he had not properly given cover to the Talmud Chacham.
Right.
And that was it. But it seems to me like that attitude of that sort of fundamental introspection, that anything that I see is a message from Shemayim, and it's speaking to me about what I need to do.
Right, and in Yiddish, the word that's used is a spiegel. It's a mirror. A spiegel is a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just continue.
Well, I was gonna say a place where that's particularly meaningful for me is in marriage, because marriage is an easy area to feel entitled. You know, to feel like I'm not getting what I'm supposed to get, or whatever, and to have resentments and so on. But to have that attitude that everything that comes to me is a message min Shemayim, that's also a great way, it seems to me, to bring that hashpah into our marriages.
So with that word, I'll end with a story of the Alter Rebbe that you just reminded me of, and I need you to use now expanded consciousness to hear the story. So don't get bogged down. Don't get back down in the narrow-mindedness of the story. Okay? Otherwise, I'm not going to tell you the story. So someone comes to the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe, and he says, Rebbe, I can't anymore. I need out. I've been suffering all my years with this lady, my wife. Grant me a get. And the Alter Rebbe says, my dear Chasid, no. Go back and try to make it work. Sounds like a rabbi, right? And he goes back and he tries to make it work. 3-4 months later, the Chassid comes back and he says, Rebbe, it's torture. It's torture on earth. I just want out. I don't want her money. I don't want any. I just want out to let me live. Alter Rebbe at this point saw he had no breira. So the Alter Rebbe said to him, let me tell you something. I heard this from Rabbi Mangel, soll sein gesund of Crown Heights. Not Mindel, Rabbi Mangel, the Holocaust survivor, with the numbers and the Talmud Chochem, and he translated part of Tanya into English anyway. So he said like this. So he said, the Alter Rebbe said to him, my dear Chassid, since you're pressuring me and you're nudging me to grant you the get, that you have a right to go and seek a get and get divorced, I'm going to tell you something about your neshama. Okay, tell me about my neshama. And he says, in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, the Yidden had a taiva. What was their taiva at the time? Not money, not women, not drinks, not honor. Their taiva was avodah zarah, idolatry. Yeah, it sounds crazy, right? But they had a taiva. They were obsessed, infatuated with bowing down and worshiping an idol. What a taiva. Says the Alter Rebbe, your neshama, standing here. Your neshama is a Gilgul, is a reincarnation for someone from that time of the first Beis Hamikdash. What's the halacha iser? Each time you do avodah zarah, you chayav misa. You're obligated to die each time. And in the book of the Cheshbonus, every time you bow down 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, 6 times misa. Says the Alter Rebbe. Each time that your wife nudges you and drives you crazy, it takes away, it's metaken, one of the times of avodah zarah. So you want to still get married? He's still divorced? And he says, no, Rebbe. If so, I'm staying put. I believe that this story has a much greater insight than the technicality of the story. Each time your wife, your husband, whoever the spouse drives you nuts and all that, like Hillel said, look at yourself, take it in, and know that, by the literature, you would say, I'm getting more schar, I'm getting more reward. By Hasidim, we don't think that way. I'm getting a bigger piece of Sheirah Bora Mashiach comes. A bigger piece of meat and potatoes and steak. No. But by the Hasidim, they have their, appreciation. I'll be more with my Rebbe. I'll be more with Hasidim. Each time you experience something that is difficult and hard, whether it's collectively, communally, or personally, know that you need it. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, it reminds me of the story of the Yid HaKodesh. He had a second wife named Shendel.
Yeah.
And Shendel was a very difficult woman.
Yeah.
Who used to pour soup on the guests and would come and interrupt the shiurim and yell at people. And the Hasidim told the Yid, give her a get. It's enough already. You don't need to put up with this. And he said, I'll tell you a story. There was once a man who went to Bezdin Shalmaila after 120 years. And they said, Rabbi Yid, you didn't have guests, you didn't learn Torah, you didn't do, what's your explanation? He said, my wife didn't let. And one of the malachim let out such a shry, it was heard from one end of Shemaim to the other. Who ever heard of such an excuse? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent that malach down so he could experience what it was to have a wife that didn't let. And the Chassidim understood he was saying an autobiographical story.
Everyone, enjoy your day, but remember, take the story the right way, okay?
Right.
Have a great day. We'll see everyone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye-bye. Shalom.